Tonight I wanted to talk about 10 things that I wish I had known in regards to being misdiagnosed for 16 years. Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Jenny if you are new, and I'm grateful to have you here. I did a video a few months back sharing my journey of being misdiagnosed, how I was finally properly diagnosed, but I would love to share what I wish I had known that might help someone else if you're struggling with getting the right diagnosis, or struggling with getting answers, anything like that. I hope they are not. But so the first thing that I wish I had known was to be your own advocate. When I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, I was sure that I had to have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome ruled out. Despite my seeing 3 rheumatologists, the 2 of them were for a second and third opinion. None of them believed that Ehlers-Danlos syndrome was a possibility. And that's when I sort of gave up trying to rule it out. It wasn't until 8 years later that it was brought up by a new gastroenterologist I was seeing. He asked if I had ever been worked up for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And I was reminded that I have got to push to have this ruled out. I've got to advocate to have it ruled out. And it took 9 years to get to the geneticist, and that's when I was given the formal diagnosis of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Not to mention that my chronic daily migraine diagnosis that I had all along felt was more than chronic daily migraines. But that was, that was also more advocating that I had to do to request those tests that I would need to rule out instability or a spinal fluid leak. So that was more advocating. And then ultimately I would find out that the chronic daily migraines were a result of the underlying instability. But I just know, no one can advocate for you better than you. The second thing would be to find a doctor who will listen to you. Really, really listen. I've lost count of the doctors who have brushed my concerns off or just outright told me I was wrong, which is fine. But the problem was that, I was not getting better. I was getting worse. I was bedridden. My condition was debilitating. And so, it was just, I needed somebody to listen to me. And so as my pain management doctor, geneticist, and neurosurgeon put it, when you're dealing with something that is rare or not as well known within the medical community, it is critical that you find somebody willing to listen. It doesn't have to be somebody that is an expert in that particular health condition. It just has to be somebody who's really, who's willing to learn, willing to listen, or what have you. Your concerns matter, and if you don't have somebody to listen to you, they can't help you. So the third one is, if you have questions that aren't being answered, do your own research. But more importantly, get your information from credible, reliable sources. The doctors I had been seeing were not familiar with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome or any of the comorbidities associated. It wasn't until I began doing my own research that I found it was not uncommon that the medical profession as a whole isn't as well versed with rare conditions. They're taught to think hoofbeats, not zebras, to think of the most common cause as opposed to something rare and less likely. So, this is where good, solid, and accurate information comes in. Research is a must, but more importantly, it has got to be accurate information that you are researching. So I'm going to link below some of the information that I have found most helpful, most credible, most reliable, that has helped me in researching, and maybe can help you too. So I will link that below. Number 4, listen to your gut. No matter what you believe, whether you believe it's your, it's your God-given intuition, or that it's just your gut. If your gut's telling you something isn't right, listen. Trust your gut, trust your intuition, don't doubt yourself. And I'm talking about that nagging, never-ending thing in the pit of your stomach that you just know isn't right, or you just know you have to pay attention to that. thing that you just can't, can't get off your mind, and to trust your instincts, because mine were right all along. And I doubted myself, after you're told you're wrong so many times, or doubted, or what have you. You begin to start to doubt yourself. So if your gut, your instincts are telling you something isn't right, chances are, or maybe something's not right. So number 5, if you're even slightly suspicious of, say, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, craniocervical instability, atlantoaxial instability, a spinal fluid leak, or any hereditary connective tissue disorder, don't see a chiropractor. What I'm not saying is chiropractors are bad or anything like that. They are amazing. And, my husband sees one regularly. My children have seen one. I've saw one for close to 20 years, I believe. They're amazing. But it's important if you have those suspicions, to have those conditions ruled out prior to seeing them, because it can make those conditions worse. In my case, this is from my neurosurgeon, he says that my condition was made worse because of neck adjustments. So it's just something to be aware of, and definitely, just to cover your bases. You just don't need anything to make it worse. But yeah, just for that added peace of mind, to be careful with that. And also, if you suspect a leak too, I know I said that, but the specialist that was working me up for a leak at Stanford also said the same thing, and it's because of the weak connective tissue that we can have with those connective tissue disorders, and the complications that can result as a result of those adjustments. Number 6, there are different degrees of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Not everyone has, constant large joint dislocations. Some of us have frequent or even just occasional subluxations. And, so if you Google Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, you'll likely see some very extreme pictures. The worst of the condition. It's definitely not as bad as it was 9 years ago, or 10 years ago, when I started looking into it. Matter of fact, when I was asking about Ehlers-Danlos syndrome to the rheumatologist who diagnosed me with fibromyalgia, he said, these are his words, not mine, "Have you not seen the pictures online? You're nothing like those people." So not everyone with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome has large joint dislocations or super stretchy skin. Mine is kind of stretchy, but it's not like, crazy. I think that Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I'm pretty sure I've heard this from the experts in the field, it's kind of like a spectrum condition. It is not the same for everyone, so just to be aware of that. It's not the same across the board. So I wish that I had known that not everyone with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome has this textbook presentation of it. So, number 7, breast implants. My least favorite topic to talk about. I hate it, actually, but they don't have to be ruptured to cause illness. So for 18 years I had breast implants, and after 10 years of having them, I had the imaging. I followed up with the plastic surgeon, because also after 10 years was when I began having my debilitating symptoms, and my health started going crazy. So I did have imaging. I was seen. I asked my rheumatologist, my plastic surgeon, and even my primary care physician, I asked multiple times if it could be associated, and I was always told no, there's no possibility of that. They're not ruptured. So all I can say is that I had mine removed in October 2016. Since then, the fibromyalgia that plagued me with severe and constant muscle pain, the menopause, the dozens and dozens of food and chemical sensitivities, the fevers that I always had strep. I had interstitial cystitis. My irritable bowel syndrome was really bad, and I had had really severe colon spasms. And those things, my hormones corrected themselves. Fibromyalgia is 90% better. I have not had strep once since I had them removed, and I used to get it at least 6 times a year, or catch every single bug that was going around. Also, my immune system, not my immune system, well, it was pretty weak, obviously, or seemed that way since I was catching everything, but I had my abnormal autoimmune markers in my blood work. My ANA was not normal, and my immune markers were not within normal limits. And so now they are, is the point. So, you know, please, if you're having puzzling symptoms, if you're having sort of your own little health mystery, you can't explain why all these symptoms are happening. I know there are so many women going through this, and you do have breast implants, you might consider it as a possibility, at least something to rule out, because I have done much better since I had mine removed. Number 8, it is critical to be properly diagnosed and treated as soon as possible for the best chance of recovery and quality of life. Had I known that I did in fact have Ehlers-Danlos and the instability, it would have saved me going to the chiropractor and making it worse. It would have saved me 2 surgeries I didn't need, many procedures that I didn't need. And you know, some of them dangerous that could have made me worse. Thank God they didn't. But you know, for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and for instability, and even all add in for the spontaneous spinal fluid leaks, it is critical to have as quick as possible diagnosis and treatment for the best prognosis. So number 9, there is a lot of crossover between CSF leaks and instability, and I would like to throw in migraines as well, just in my case. I spent a year and a half, probably closer to 2 years, trying to locate a CSF leak because I had every symptom, and my specialist at Stanford was so convinced I had a leak, primarily because there is a lot of leaks, spontaneous spinal fluid leaks, that don't show up on imaging, and I had every symptom, right? So he had even sent me for evaluation of surgical repair. So you know, there's just not enough awareness within the 2 communities, like the spinal fluid leak community and the craniocervical and atlantoaxial instability community, Ehlers-Danlos community, hereditary connective tissue disorder community, about the crossover between the 2 conditions, and even migraines, because, you know, it was diagnosed as daily migraines, and I lost count of the people that I've met that have been diagnosed with daily migraines, and it turned out to be a spinal fluid leak or instability. So wish I would have known that for sure. Number 10, I wish I had known to pay attention to the positional aspect of my headache. In my case, my migraines are not positional, I now see, and I don't have like, if I have now, it does, you know, I think with everybody, probably it feels better to lay down when you have a migraine, but I'm talking about the true positional aspect, to where it is much worse when you're upright, and better or complete resolution of symptoms when you're flat or laying down. That could have been a big clue for me and saved me lots of trouble. But anyway, that is a huge one. If your headaches are positional like that, definitely rule out, you know, either instability or CSF leak as a cause. That's a big one. There is a huge positional aspect with CSF leak, and even with instability, which I didn't realize. In fact, that's why we suspected that my CSF leak was the, you know, primary cause of my disabling symptoms, because I would get so much better when I was laying down, and still do. So anyway, I hope just by sharing those tips that maybe it will help somebody, and wish you the best if you are on your own journey trying to get the proper diagnosis. I will link below some resources that helped me, and you know, if you're struggling to get properly diagnosed, if you have your own little medical mystery going on, if you would feel comfortable sharing below, I would really appreciate it. If not, I totally understand, but feel free. I'm always here if you would like to talk, or if I can help in any way, and I will link below the ways that I can be contacted. And so yeah, I thank you all for being here, and I just hope that you have a good week. Bye.